Right now, stake pools look like this, but the ISO fundraising model could turn stake pools into brand new types of investment funds that offer you portfolios of the entire Cardano ecosystem. Get ready. Let's go. We already talked a few days ago about how this initial stake pool offering model is a brand new and innovative way to do capital formation. But as I've reflected on it over the last couple of days, I've realized that it's very possible this new model could produce a spectrum of different types of stake pools in the Cardano ecosystem. Right now, we basically have one type of stake pool, right? We'll call this the sort of the A model, right? And 100% of the rewards you currently get out of stake pools is ADA, right? I mean, they might airdrop you some NFTs from time to time, but it's kind of more of a novelty at this point. But the crazy thing is, with this initial stake pool offering system, we could end up with a wide variety of different pools, some of which are going to still continue to offer you 100% ADA as your rewards, just like you have now. But we're also going to have some other types. We could have a B type of stake pool. That letter is way too big compared to the other one. We don't care. You could end up with a B type of stake pool, right? And the B type of stake pool could offer you 90%. 90% ADA. I'm just going to use our fancy ADA symbol. Pretend like that looks like the ADA symbol. It could offer you 90% ADA. And then the other 10% could be a project token, right? A project token. Maybe they make a deal. In the case that we've already seen, we've got the initial stake pool offering model being proposed and executed by SundaeSwap. And they're the ones running the stake pool. They're the ones behind the project. As far as I know, I haven't looked deeply into it, but that's my understanding. In the future, I think what we're going to see, we've already got a ton of stake pools. We've got like 2,400 stake pools last time I looked. I think what's going to happen is this model is probably going to flourish unless there's some interceding cause that prevents people from wanting to do this. I think this model is going to flourish. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have projects and they're just going to go directly to stake pools. They're going to go to the stake pool. They're going to go to the stake pool B and they're going to be like, hey, right now you're paying 100% ADA to your delegators. Instead, why don't you pay your delegators 90% ADA and 10% our project token? And we are going to take that other 10% of ADA. This is going to be a transfer of ADA essentially from your delegators, but not really. It's just rewards they would have gotten. So it doesn't actually come out of their pocket. We're going to take that extra 10% of ADA and you're going to give them our project token instead, right? Obviously, this brings up a lot of questions like, how will the stake pool operator communicate that to their delegators? Will their delegators get to vote? Will existing stake pools not be willing to do this because they might lose delegators who might not like that project? Will it only be new stake pools that do this? But what I'm thinking is that there are going to be stake pools that do this, regardless of the answers to any of those questions. It might be brand new stake pools who pop up and they say, hey, we're going to offer. So let's say there's a C type also, right? There's a C type and they might say, hey, we're going to offer. So the ice cream or what's it called SundaeSwap pool, they're basically offering 0% ADA. But you might have a C type that offers, somewhere between whatever, 0 and 50%. Let's say they offer 40% ADA and 60% project tokens, right? So we've got all this is going to be project tokens. And they pop up and they say, hey, we're not going to have, unlike this B model over here, we're not going to just make a deal with one project. We're going to make a deal with many, many different projects. Maybe it's 5 projects they pick. Maybe it's 20 projects. maybe it's 100, and this other 60%, so most of the rewards their delegators will be getting will be a portfolio of up and coming projects in the Cardano ecosystem. Or maybe they're no longer up and coming. Maybe they've been around for a while, but it could be a portfolio of projects in the Cardano ecosystem. So I think we're going to see this kind of spectrum. Obviously there's the D model that SundaeSwap's pursuing that's 0% ADA, 100% SundaeSwap. We could also have an E model that's 0% ADA and 100 different tokens. And maybe that's, I don't know of that many delegators who'd want to give up their ability to collect ADA as delegation rewards forever. But if we have this this D model pool that so let's say or E model. So we said D model. D model was the model that SundaeSwap's currently pursuing. That's like, that's 100%, 100 project tokens. And then we've got this E model, right? This E model is maybe, it's the same thing. It's 100% project tokens and 0% ADA, but maybe it's, maybe it's 200, pretend like that looks like a 2. Maybe it's 200 different projects, 200 different project tokens. So you're getting 0 ADA, but you're getting, almost like a veritable S&P 500 of the Cardano ecosystem. It's like 200 different project tokens. I could see pools like this maybe turning out to be like a temporary delegation for a lot of holders, because I don't know a lot of holders who want to give up their ADA rewards forever. But somebody might be like, I'm gonna flip over into the giant portfolio stake pool that gives you like 200 different project tokens. It's like very highly diversified, and maybe there's another one. They might flip over there for like a month, and they're like, I'm just gonna pick up these 200 different project tokens for like a month, and then I'm going to flip back to 100% ADA rewards. And then there might be another one that's like more focused, and it's like, hey, this pool only has 5 types of tokens you're going to get rewarded in, but they're all DeFi. So if you're in a DeFi, this is like the DeFi portfolio stake pool. And then another one might be like, God knows, the Vice's stake pool. They're like, we only give you tokens of projects that like track alcohol and tobacco. They do track and trace supply chain stuff on alcohol and tobacco or something. Probably more likely, because this is Cardano, we're a pretty altruistic community. Probably more likely the first of these you might see might be like, hey, we're going to give you project tokens in projects that are aimed at increasing prosperity in the developing world, like Africa or something like that. I think we could very easily see this. But I think with this initial stake pool offering idea, we're going to see something that looks like a spectrum of all these different ideas. We'll probably always have 100% ADA stake pools, and a lot of people will never leave those. They'll stay in those forever. Very smart. They're like buying the rails. They're buying the rails all these projects will ride on. Some people who are a little further out on the risk spectrum, they will go into 10% project tokens, 90% ADA. Then even further out on the risk spectrum is 60% project tokens, 40% ADA. And then you go out here. The people who really believe in a certain project might buy 100% of one project token, right? Like that's the current thing going on with SundaeSwap. People even further people who are pretty far out on the risk spectrum of project tokens, plural, versus ADA, they might want something like this, right? But they may not trust their ability to pick a project, right? They might be like, hey, when I buy equities, I buy, index funds. I want something similar in Cardano. Maybe this is some kind of facsimile of an index fund for Cardano projects. This is a huge change, though, in the way we would invest in these types of projects. In the ICO craze, they have an ICO and you dump, the way it works, we've covered it before, you dump way too much in 2017, you dump way too much money into that project, And then, usually that token proceeds to go directly to zero. It's like, I have one mission, sir. It is to go directly to zero so that you lose all of your investment. In the case of this ISO model, in anywhere on this like risk spectrum, in this ISO model, you could jump in for a little bit, and you wouldn't really, under this conceptual model, you wouldn't really be risking your principal, right? You would just be risking the rewards that you would earn, your staking rewards that you would earn off your principal, your delegation rewards. So it's a very different type of risk than we encountered in 2017. So this is totally going to change the way people think about investing in crypto. So you don't have this initial like lump sum sunk cost thing where you put in a bunch of money and it's gone forever. You're not even really risking your principal. You're just risking your cash flow in terms of your delegation rewards. That's going to change quite a bit. It's also going to change things for the SPOs who decide to engage in this model, because they go from becoming like, basically like stake pool mechanics, just making sure their stake pool is running well, right? It's like they're spending all their time, diagnosing problems, monitoring things, just making sure their stake pool runs well. The second they slip into this model, they become like asset managers, right? And they have to negotiate these deals with the projects. They tell the project, hey, my delegators think your project sucks. You got to give us, this many of your token for every ADA my delegators would have gotten as a reward. So they have to have this like negotiation skill set. And then they also have to talk to their delegators in a slightly different way. They have to convince their delegators that the assets they've chosen and struck deals with are good investments versus the ADA delegation rewards their delegators would have gotten. So the SPOs, suddenly the communication piece becomes really important. They're basically negotiating with the projects, negotiating with their delegators. It's like a little bit of a different thing, and they might even have to get in the habit of hyping their investment portfolio. They become very similar to fund managers on Wall Street. And in fact, of course, I wouldn't be surprised if they start attracting that crowd where each stake pool that decides to do this has like, the part of the team that runs the actual stake pool and the part of the team that's doing this very like Wall Street-esque piece of negotiating with the projects and talking to the delegators, communicating with the delegators, and doing the marketing towards the delegators. What's interesting is, because it's crypto and it's a stake pool, they could move very, very quickly in and out of deals, right? If some project starts sucking, they do something that gives the stake pool operator and the delegators the impression that that project's not going to do well, right? It's like they make some terrible misstep in their PR, or it becomes obvious that their technology sucks, whatever it is, their code sucks. They could very easily say, like, okay, for this epic, that project's out. This other project's in. It can become this very fluid, dynamic thing. And while fluid and dynamic markets can be scary, we know that in crypto. Crypto is a pretty fluid and dynamic market, and it's pretty scary, lots of volatility. While that is the case, it also allows Adam Smith's hidden hand to do its thing. It allows the free market to do its thing, right? To weed out the people who are doing a poor job at whatever their role is, and to reward the people who are doing a very good job. So I think this whole ISO model, it's super interesting for the projects to raise more funds, but it could also have this effect described here, creating a spectrum of different types of stake pools where, we'll still have the traditional type of stake pool we all know and love right now, but stake pools could take on a brand new mantle as asset managers, bringing, some portion of the rewards, maybe 100% over on this page, maybe something less than 100% over on this page, to their delegators. And each delegator will be making a choice now, not just as to which stake pool they want to delegate to in terms of the likely ADA rewards, but also what types of rewards they want to get. We've also talked in the past how Babel fees, if they're built out in a certain way, obviously Babel fees aren't built yet, still very conceptual. We've also talked about how Babel fees could play a role in all this. Like obviously the stake pool operators are going to be, paying the fees of native token transactions in ADA in exchange for some amount of that token. So there's the potential those tokens could also be distributed to delegators, but that's way down the road. That could happen, that could not happen. But I think regardless of what happens with Babel fees, whether any of the Babel fees ever through market dynamics or otherwise make their way to the delegators, I think this ISO model has a very high potential to create a spectrum of different types of stake pools, just like this, that start looking a whole lot more like portfolio funds. And that's going to be really interesting for all of us. Talk to you tomorrow.